Awesome. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. A lot of great businesses don't fail because they lack expertise. They fail because they don't understand how to scale. Today's guest works at the intersection of healthcare and business, helping clinics turn great medicine into thriving, sustainable companies. We are joined by Jody Lane, a strategist with over 25 years of experience in digital marketing and business development. She's the creator of the Power Framework, a system designed to help clinics grow by focusing on five key areas: positioning, operations, workforce, experience, and revenue. This is a conversation about growth, leadership, and building businesses that actually work. Jody, welcome to Thought Atlas. It's a pleasure to have you.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Now, Jody, before we kick things off, I and my listeners, we want to get to know you. You understand? Aside your accolades, your expertise, and your achievements, we want to get to know you as a person. So, can you tell us more about yourself?
Sure. Um, I'm a mom. I have a
Wow.
wonderful, amazing child, a
Wonderful.
daughter who's 22 years old. I have been pretty much in marketing my entire career. I went to school for communications and just happened to be in the right place at the right time on graduation day and picked up a job at a direct mail firm and just kind of fell in love with marketing. I love the process of trying to connect a message to what people need or want in their life so that businesses and consumers can connect. Um, kind of fell into entrepreneurship. I really didn't come from a background of business owners, and I never really dreamed of owning a business, but I was working with a gentleman at a company back in the early 90s, and we were like, what would it be like if we owned our own agency? And the next thing we knew, we had one. And
Wow.
that just sort of like kicked off this desire, this passion for being a business owner. And so that was like 30 years ago, but now I really have figured out that what I truly love is I love finding people who have talent, like a provider, like a doctor, who
Yes.
really want to get their talent out into the world, but they don't quite know how to navigate that from a business perspective. And I find a lot of excitement and passion in helping their dream come true by using my business skills to get their business off the ground.
Wow. Wow. That's absolutely fabulous. And
Thank you.
once again, you know, welcome to Thought at Last. Thank you for letting us get to know you, and you're welcome. Now, you've had both wins and failures, you understand, and what shaped you in the most in your journey, to success?
I'll say it's two things. The first one was my very first job. I had a boss who was insanely high standards, and I was very young, and his approach was angry and yelling and mean. So you really
Oh,
like, I used to get sick on Sunday nights thinking about going to work, and I worked for
yeah.
him for about 3.5 years, and I attribute 90% of who I am back to him. It wasn't fun going through it because it was a lot of stress, especially for a young 20-something-year-old, but it
Yes.
taught me to be always look for perfection, always do the research, like really be at my best. So that I would say is the first. The second is my husband and I started a company in like around 2010, and we put all of our own money in it and lost about a $500,000.
Ooh. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And it got me to see the biggest lesson I learned was that I'm okay with failure. That if I make choices and they don't turn out, that there's an opportunity to learn something, and that means I can continue to move forward. If that really crippled me and sent me into a depression and had me just think I was a terrible person, then I knew entrepreneurship wasn't for me. But I took all the lessons I could possibly learn from that experience and pushed that
Yes.
into the next business I started.
I totally agree with you. As in, when you start to look at failure differently, because I used to be that kind of person where if anytime I encounter like failure, I start to feel like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me, and oh, I'm not going to succeed, or I'm just going to keep on failing. I start to feel a certain way essentially. But growing up, becoming more mature, I started to understand that failures are like stepping stones. When you fail at something,
Absolutely.
all you have to do is just observe. Okay, what happened? Where did I go wrong? Where is the mistake coming from? You make corrections, yeah, and you just like take NASA for example. I mean, when NASA wants to send a rocket to space, they don't hope that the rocket is not going to crash. They have
Right.
contingency upon contingency upon contingency. So when something goes wrong, you see they run lots of tests, they do lots of things. Essentially, they know that it can fail, it may fail, it will fail. But you know what? What matters is we don't stop, we continue to push, check why is this stuff failing? Why is it not working? Make corrections
Right.
and just do the needful essentially. Yeah, so yes, I totally agree with you. Looking at failure differently actually helps.
Well,
Now, your
interesting what
agency
you
has
just said too. Like you just said that in that scenario, they're looking for what's going to fail. And that is an interesting perspective in life and especially in business, that if you are always predicting what the failure is going to be, you can be
yes,
proactive to put things in place to try to mitigate that failure versus
exactly.
reacting to the failures or the missed opportunities or whatever word you want to use, um, reacting to it and potentially, not coming from scarcity or coming from desperation or coming from fear.
Yes. Wow. Thank you. It's as if you took the words out of my brain and just said,
We think alike, that's for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, exactly. Your agency has scaled to millions in revenue, which is mind blowing. Now, what did that teach you about business growth?
So our agency hasn't actually scaled to millions of revenue. That would be great. Our agency has helped other clinics scale to millions of revenue.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and honestly, I find that a little bit even more rewarding. So, I think that us being really intentional about not just putting a cookie cutter plan together, which a lot of people are doing these days, like how can I scale faster? How can I work a couple hours, create a framework that just, I can repeat over and over again for every customer. And if they get results, great. And if they don't, then I'll just move on to the next customer. That's not our attitude. Our attitude is that we did create a framework that guides our custom consulting. And then we put that into action based on our clients' needs, desires, and goals.
Wow, wow, wow. That's awesome. Now, you've also had ventures that, didn't work out. What did those experiences teach you?
Yeah, so I'll go back to that. Well, actually, I'm gonna use a different one. So I had an agency. I started an agency with a friend actually in 2003, and we were very successful. It was a direct marketing agency. We had built that company up to a little over $3 million. We went through the 2008
Wow.
recession. Like we really did a great job. But I got lazy and I started relying on the relationship with my partner because we were friends. And I
Yes.
didn't put like ideas, I didn't put things into contracts. We didn't do all the correct business, tactics that you need to do to secure yourself. And
Yes.
we started recognizing that our thoughts and our desires and goals were going in different directions. And I didn't challenge that. I just sort of accepted it. And eventually we parted ways, and that exit from that company was worse than my divorce. It
Oh
was,
my.
years of litigation and mediation and fighting, and it was all because one, we didn't put the proper business structures in place. When we started, we didn't have a proper business agreement, we didn't have terms of our exit, none of that. And second is I didn't want to rock the boat, so I didn't challenge what he was thinking, along the way. And I just kind of said, well, I'll just do my own thing. And that was the absolute wrong move. So that completely changed my opinion about creating corporate culture and focusing on teamwork and how a team operates. And I bring that into what we do now with our wellness clinicians, because your team, your staff, I think is the most important product you have. And if
Yes.
that is on shaky ground, the entire business is on shaky ground.
Yes. Thank you so much for that wonderful response, Jody. Now, Jody, let's dive into, the business of healthcare. Now, why do you think so many great healthcare providers struggle on the business side?
Oh, well, because they went to school for medicine. And there is
Oh,
not 1 minute
true.
devoted to any kind of entrepreneur mindset, or, I mean, they're taught to learn and then execute. And yet, I would say more than 50% of providers at some point in their career go out on their own because they don't want to be in the hospital environment. And in the wellness industry, it's more than that because in the wellness industry, you often are doing something or you're doing treatments that don't take insurance. And so the only
Yes,
real option you have is to start your own business. And it's not even a traditional medical business. It's like a retail business.
yes,
And so they don't think about that. They're not taught to think like that. And it's really easy to start a medical clinic. It doesn't take much. The barrier to entry is extremely low. It's your knowledge that's the most important. You get a couple of pieces of software, maybe you get a secretary, and boom, you're in business. And then you
wow,
start to scale and you start to bring in more patients. And now you need more staff. Now you have issues with your staff. Then you need to realize that your cash flow is poor because you're charging too little. Like all of these elements just sort of compound.
yes,
And it's hard. It's really difficult for a medical provider who has really never any interest in being an entrepreneur and now finds it a necessity in order to help the people they want to help. And they struggle.
yes. And to add to what she said, like you said, they're not really experts. Imagine having to deal with, treating patients, taking care of patients, then have to go and sit down and start balancing checks and checkbooks. I mean, that's a lot of work. At some point, you need someone who's an expert in that field to help you balance your checks and whatnot. Then you focus on, healing and taking care of the patients. Now, what do you think the biggest disconnect is between, the clinical expertise and business success?
There's probably a number of them, but the one that I think is the biggest, the one that hits the provider first, is around money. Because very
Mm.
few true wellness providers go into business to make a ton of money. That's not their drive. Now, I'm not saying they don't want to make money. Of course, everybody wants to make money. That's how we live and
Yes, yeah.
survive.
They,
But
they
their
have to earn a
drive,
living.
exactly, they have to make a living. But their
Yeah.
drive is about helping people. And
Yes.
so we see this all the time where even if they work with us and we create the perfect pricing model for them that it gives them the amount of profit margin they need in order to be successful, they're sitting in front of somebody who is suffering, that is dealing with symptoms that are really challenging and their trajectory is going in a very bad way. And that person doesn't have the money to pay. Of course, their heart is going to win over their brain. And
Yes.
I get that at the emotional level. The problem with that is if we do that too often, eventually the clinic will go away and then you will help nobody.
Yes. Exactly. The business becomes unsustainable. So at some point we need to, I think we can actually find a kind of should I say common ground. I'm not really an expert. I'm just speaking out of my my opinion. So I think we can find a kind of a common ground where we'll be able to help people, but at the same time they will be able to, kind of like compensate us for the help, if you will. Maybe a way like okay, you can pay in installments. That could be a way, or you could loan and then pay the loan. But just maybe like the clinic could work with a bank where patients could come and take loans. I don't know if that's the thing.
No, there's a thing called Care Credit or Cherry. There's a lot of different medical companies that you can work with that will, if the patient gets approved for the credit, they pay that
Yes,
company, and then the clinic gets paid. Honestly, I mean, you're right. There's like a ton of different ways that you can solve this problem, but the
yes.
solution begins with the mindset. If
Oh
you're a
wow.
business
Okay.
owner, whether it's a provider or you own a flower shop, it doesn't matter. If you're not aware of how much it costs you to run your business and you don't realize what you bottom line need to make every single month just to break even, and
Yes.
you're not thinking in those terms, and then you start to give services away, you could end up actually paying out of pocket for those patients to have those services. And it seems so logical to anybody with any kind of a business mind, but I've met so many providers that when I start working with them and I say, "Can you send me your profit and loss statement?" What's that? They don't use any kind of financial software. Basically, if there's
Oh
money,
my God.
then they
They
must be doing
they're
okay.
they're running their business on vibes.
Exactly. Oh my God, that's such a
Wow.
great way of saying that. They're running their business on vibes. And it's because either they don't want to because it feels uncomfortable because they might find some information out they don't want to know, or they've not been trained to do that. So they don't even realize that there are options. And so, we do a lot of things for those clinics that we work with, but the very first thing I always want to dive into is the finances. I want to understand what are they charging? What are they paying out? How do they want to grow? Because if you just create your pricing for today, but your goal is in the next 2 years to have three locations, you're going to have to continue to increase your prices to keep up with overheads. Let's predict that. And what are your
Yes,
goals? What are you trying to get to? So that way you can actually make decisions to achieve those goals versus, getting to the end of 3 years and being like, wait a minute, I haven't changed at all. Nothing's evolved.
exactly. And the crazy thing is, right? You get to a point where your business will essentially shut down. It's hope because if you don't have, like you said, you can't even provide a statement of, how much profits and loss we made for this month or this year or the past week. What? You're hoping that if I continue to help people, help patients, and do the right thing, my business will not shut down. Oh my God, it's definitely hope is not a strategy, like I said before. Yeah, at some point you need to be pragmatic and come up with a system that will enable you to help people to the best of your ability, to the should I say humanly possible points. Yes, I don't know if that's correct English, but anyways, let's just run with that and still be able to keep the business afloat so that you can help more people in the future. Wow.
You're
You
so
wanted to say
right.
something?
Yeah, I was going to say that, especially, and I focus primarily in the hormone and functional medicine space. Um,
Yes.
I understand that world because I ran a clinic for almost a decade, so I understand that world. So I try to stick in that world. And when I
Wow.
started in that industry in 2015, very, very few people were doing hormones. Very, very few people, very few patients even understood hormones. Fast forward now 10 years, it is a booming industry. It's one of the biggest industries there is in the wellness space. And
Yes.
you no longer have the luxury as a hormone clinic owner to just rely on, well, my patients have no other options. Businesses are going to start and stop within that first year 10 times over because the
Wow.
competition is getting so much stronger. And no longer
Yes.
are you in a unique situation where you're the only hormone clinic owner in town. So it has
Definitely.
become even more valuable to become savvy in business or hire somebody who, like spend the money, hire a business manager that comes in and works in your clinic. Or if you don't have those kind of funds, work with a business like ours that understands the business side, get you set up, and then you can, function on your own.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that wonderful clarification and those wonderful response. I really appreciate those. And for everyone listening, and you're running some kind of a clinic or something in the medical field, that's also the business that's your way to you make a living. She's the one for you, honestly. Julie is the person you need to help you plan your business.
You're so sweet.
Now, I want to talk about your power framework. Now, for everyone listening, power is in caps, it's in capital letters. Now, can you break down what your power framework is in simple terms?
Absolutely. Yeah. So power is an acronym and it stands for positioning, meaning like what is your messaging? Who's your target audience? What are your pricing? What are your goals? Operations, what does your staff do? Standardized. Workforce, building a culture in your business. Patient
Yes,
experience, how does your patient go through your process and what is their experience, making sure it's great. And then we end with revenue, which is marketing and sales. And after working in my own clinic for 7 years, I looked back at our success and I realized that we put all of the tactics in place into that clinic in that order. Because you need to know who you're talking to. You need to know what your pricing is. And then when you start bringing people in, you need to have a solid operation and your staff knows exactly what to do and everyone gets the same experience. You need to have
yes,
incredible culture and people that want to be there and make those people excited about coming to work. You need people who come, the patients who come through your clinic to have those wow moments so that they really love your clinic and they want to continue to come to you. And if all of those things are in place, then you can pour money into revenue, into marketing and sales. What we see is that most clinics want to go right to R. They want to go right to buying ads, SEO on their website, like all the things that a true marketer like myself would tell them to do. And while
Yes.
we understand that as a new business, you need to do some marketing. If you don't have all these things in place and you start spending a lot of money in marketing and you start getting a lot of patients, they're all going to break down and retention is going to be poor because the other things
Mm.
aren't solid. So that's what we teach is to make sure that people understand there's work to do to make your foundation strong. And once that's in place, then by all means, let's put all of our energies into building a list, building a brand, having a really great sales conversion model, and all of that.
Wow. Thank you so much for that wonderful response. Now, what are the most common bottlenecks you see in clinics when they are trying to scale?
Um, you know, it's hard because the first four pillars is all about operations and the staff and the day to day, and then the R
Yes.
is separate. So, can I give two answers?
Yeah,
Because
sure, sure,
I
definitely.
would say the first one is it's in operations. So when a patient comes to a clinic, they spend about 10% of their clinic interaction time with the provider. And the provider is usually the business owner. And they really dial it in. They have great relationships, they have great conversations, and they're sold with the provider. And they
Yeah.
spend 80% of their time with the rest of the staff, checking in at the front desk, checking out, getting their blood drawn, calling in prescriptions, talking to the medical team. And so if if the operations isn't solid, if the response time is poor, if the staff is rude, like all of that, it doesn't really matter how great the provider is, you're going to lose the patient. So if that isn't nailed down as you begin to scale, it's going to be really, really difficult to reverse engineer backwards and fix all that as you grow.
Oh,
On
wow.
the sales side, and this
Yes.
is something that we've been talking about a lot lately over at our social medias and things like that. It's around the understanding of what a lead truly is. So and this is actually true for all businesses, not just for wellness clinics, but if you're going to
Yes.
spend any kind of money or energy to collect a lead, that lead is just showing interest. That lead is not ready to buy. Maybe a percentage of them are, but for the most part, we are inundated with messages on email and text messaging and social media that if we connect with something that's a lead magnet, it just means we're saying, "Hey, I'm here. I might be interested." And too many clinics are giving up after one or two tries and saying, "Oh, that person isn't really interested." When it could take 20 touches for that person to actually pick up the phone, respond to an email, book a consult. And so they're wasting their money on ads and then just giving up on the lead. And we're out to change
Oh, oh, wow. Okay, okay, wow. That's mind-boggling.
that.
Now, you said that your team is your number one product. Now, what does that mean in practice?
That means that you have a set of core values as a business owner that you want your business to operate from. You have people that align with those values, so everybody's coming from the same perspective. It means that you treat your employees as if they're entrepreneurs so that they really want to be there. It's not just about a paycheck. Everyone needs money. We can just accept that. But you want to pay your
Yes.
people well. You want to thank them for their work. You want to give them opportunities to grow and expand, whether it's, a lot of clinics are small. There's no opportunity to move up. So give them opportunities to learn, to expand their own knowledge, to give
Yeah.
them feedback, to get feedback from them. We always talk about, employee reviews. I'm a big proponent for company reviews. I used to sit down with my staff once a quarter and it was a dialogue. You tell me how the
Yes.
company's doing good and bad, and I'll tell you how you're doing good or bad. And let's see if we can constantly improve. So it's really treating your staff like they're partners so that when they show up, they act like they own the business. They treat the patients like they're their patients. They give their all and they have integrity while they do it.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for that wonderful response and clarification. Now, I saw something called EOS. Now, how important are systems like EOS in scaling a business? And please, what are EOS?
Yeah, sure. So EOS is a company that was started probably in the early 90s by a gentleman by the name of Gino Wickman. I
Hmm.
came upon his book, which is called Traction, which anybody who owns a business or thinking about owning a business, I highly recommend that book. I think I've read it 12 times. It's called
Wow.
Traction. And it basically creates this framework around how to grow a business in a way that for me made a lot of sense. Talking about what your core focus is, what your core values are, building a team that has a very strong culture, creating meetings that are effective, creating goals that everybody is aligned to, and creating action steps to achieve those goals. It pretty much
Yes.
reframed everything that I do as a consultant. And EOS is the company that he built. And if you are somebody that wants to engage with the EOS methodology, there are groups in different cities that you can join. You can hire EOS consultants. I'm not one of them. I just read the book and became a fan. And I use the principles
Yeah.
in my own life, in my own business, and in the businesses that I teach.
So EOS is like an acronym.
Yeah, it stands for Entrepreneur Online System, I think.
Oh, okay, okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's not
thank you so much.
mine. Like I said, it belongs to that's a
Yes.
different company. Yeah.
Now, your passion for illness is personal. How did that influence your work today? How has it influenced your work over time?
Say that one more time.
I said your passion for wellness is
Oh,
personal. How
yeah.
has it influenced your work today and over time?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it literally changed my life. So when I back in 2015, I
Yes.
had a marketing agency and marketing was my life. That's all I'd ever done really. I owned marketing agencies. I worked in marketing agencies. So I did enjoy business development and being an entrepreneur, but it was always in marketing. And with that agency that I had, I picked up a client. He was a hormone clinic owner. And
Mm.
I had to start writing, blogs and all that and social media posts. So of course I had to do my research. And as I'm researching about hormone optimization, I'm noticing all these symptoms that can exist for a person that my husband had. He was in his late 20s, and yet
Yes.
he had all of these issues. And I said to him, why don't you get tested? I mean, it couldn't hurt, right? I have the guy for you. He's my client. And it turned out that he had a low testosterone
Oof.
and immediately was given testosterone and everything changed. And I saw this transformation in one human being that, of course, was close to me that I thought was astounding. And
Yes.
I decided in that moment that hormones were going to be my life. I don't know if I did it consciously. Because it took 2 years for me finally to say to the gentleman that owned the clinic, I was like, look, I'm so committed to what you're doing. I want to come work here. And so that's
Wow.
what I ended up doing. I sold my agency to my partner at the time, and I joined his practice as the chief operating officer. It was 3 people, including myself, and we were making about $500,000 a year, and we created this vision of
Wow.
what we wanted it to be. And when I left, it had 23 employees, 4 providers, and we were doing over 4.2 million.
Wow.
And I left that clinic only because my passion for hormone optimization is still this strong that I felt like, okay, I was able to do this for this one guy, which means that his 1,200, 1,500 patients are taken care of. I want to do
Yes.
this for lots of other providers. So that way, more and more people could get the care they needed. So we had a ripple effect of what we were doing here at AMP that was so tiny, but millions of people. We actually have a goal of 10 million patients being served as a result of the work we do with hormone providers, because that's really what
Yes.
drives us.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's impressive. That's should I say I hope you always add that to your resume because that's
Okay.
incredibly impressive. It's very much impressive. Now, what does a better healthcare system look like to you?
Do you mean like insurance-based healthcare system or just people living a healthier life?
I mean, everything we've been discussing is we want a healthcare system that doesn't just take care of people, but also makes money so that it will be sustainable. So,
Yeah.
in that sense, in that regard, what would you describe as the ideal healthcare system?
I think the ideal healthcare system needs to be driven by people and not by agency. So there are a lot of things that we as human beings can do to take care of ourselves. Yet the healthcare system that as we know it today waits until you get a symptom or you are sick in order to be cared for. And I think that's backwards. And again, that is why that I focus all my attention on the wellness industry because as I mean, I am 55 years old and
Wow.
I intend to this to be literally middle of my life. And I'm not
Yes.
going to get there by just taking antibiotics and following traditional protocols because I need to take care of my body with food, with sleep, with stress management. And hormones are one of the most important things. You've noticed that most people in their 20s and 30s don't have osteoporosis or cancer or heart disease or any of those aging diseases because their
Yes.
hormones are the engine that's making their body function. And I'm not a medical
Yes.
person, so I'm speaking very, layman because that's really all I know. But what I know is
Yeah.
that if our hormones are optimized in our 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, the way that our bodies naturally did it in our 20s and 30s, we are given the engine in order to operate. Now, what we do with that engine's up to us. We still have to put good food into our body, go, exercise, keep our bodies
Yes.
moving, sleep 8 hours, all
Yes.
that stuff. But if we focus our healthcare industry on wellness versus being sick, I think that we would spend a lot less money and we would be happier and live longer with more vitality.
Wow. Thank you so much for that wonderful response, Jody. Now, Jody, I have a set of rapid fire questions I want to ask you. You can
Okay.
either answer with a phrase or a sentence. And don't forget, both options are available. So the first one is growth or stability.
Ooh, growth.
Growth. I would actually pick both because to grow, you first of all need to be kind of like
I was
stable
gonna
in a
say
sense.
both, but I was afraid that was the wrong answer.
That was why I said, and both are actually available.
I gotcha. Okay, yes, definitely both. Yeah, growth and
Yeah.
stability go hand in hand.
Yes. Well, what do you think? What do you think? Okay, you are going to be the person who's going to determine for the rest of my guests. Should I include a third option or just A or B?
Um, should you include a third option? I mean, the question's extremely high level and very vague and can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. As
Yeah.
I could spend like the next 10 minutes talking about the difference between growth and stability and the reason why they need to exist together and how they also work against each other. So I think that leaving it to the where you have and the guest kind of interprets it their own way is kind of fun.
Okay. 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 So the next one is systems or hustle.
Systems or what?
Hustle. Hustle.
Systems 100%. Yeah, if systems aren't in place and you're just hustling, you are potentially wasting a ton of time. I would say hustle first, learn, and then create a system around it.
Exactly. 100%. I agree. Team or strategy.
Mm, both. Your strategy should come from your team.
Yeah.
Strategy should never be a one person job. There's not one person smart enough to do all of that. Especially in
All
a
right.
business, you need all the people that are doing the work to come together.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much for that response. Now, revenue or impact.
Mm. Make an impact and the revenue will come.
Oh my, wow. That was some how do I put it? Some Shaolin monk level kind of wisdom.
You're so kind.
Honestly. Okay, so the last rapid fire question is one word that defines a great business.
One word that defines a great business. Excitement.
Oh wow. I thought you were going to say profitable, but I agree with that too.
You could have a great business without being profitable. It really depends on what your goals are. I think that if you bring excitement to the table every single day, it gives you
Yes.
the fuel to do the tasks. It gives you the fuel to sell yourself. It gives you the fuel for everything. And profitability is not in my opinion, profitability is the result of a lot of other stuff.
Oh wow. And another reason why I agree with what you said, which is excitement, is because of the fact that if your employees, the people you work with enjoy coming to work every day, enjoy being at work, there is no freaking way your business would not actually be profitable and very successful and actually, make a real impact on people. Now, this is my final question before I wrap up for today. If someone is listening and they are working incredibly hard in their business, but they are not seeing results, what is something you would want to tell them, to kind of like step back and evaluate to know what to do to keep the business up and get it going?
If someone's working really hard in their business and they're not seeing the results, I think the first thing they should do is document all the things they do in order to achieve the goal for whatever it is that they're like, whatever the service they're providing. Because most of the time, we waste time doing things that are unnecessary. And you won't know that until you understand the gaps. So, for example, if you are a hormone clinic owner
Yes.
and you are selling, let's say, a 1 hour consultation and you charge $350 for that. But because of your excitement and your passion and your love to help people, you end up spending 2.5 hours in that 1 hour consultation. You
Yeah.
have now just lost money. If you
Ooh.
don't have a system in place for a patient to put in a refill and they have to make a phone call, and then that phone call is a message that gets put down on a post-it note, and the post-it note goes on the medical assistant's desk, and the medical assistant misses it, and it gets buried under other papers, and the patient doesn't get the refill out, that patient's upset and they cancel and they go away. And there's a
Wow.
way to solve that. So it's really documenting how you operate and look for where there is room for improvement, for efficiency and accuracy. And I think that would be the great first step.
Wow. Wow. Honestly, Jody, since I've been listening to you since the beginning of our conversation, all I could hear was, I'm really good at what I do. If you don't employ me, your business might fail. I am going to help you grow your business. With me, your business will become successful. And I totally agree for 100%. For everyone listening, Jody is an expert. She really knows what she's doing. She has been doing this for a while, and trust me, she's good at this. So
Thank you.
if you're a clinic owner or provider looking for clarity on your next step, looking to grow your clinic, looking to grow your business, looking to scale your clinic, she's the one you need, and you can reach out to her for a complimentary, strategy call and whatnot. Joey, this is the part where you give us your website and how to reach you.
Sure. Yeah. Our website is acceleratedmedicalpractices.com. Accelerated being ACC, accelerated medicalpractices.com. You can go to our website and go to our contact form and fill out the form, or just email me directly. I'm Jody, Jody, at acceleratedmedicalpractices.com. We'd love to speak to you.
Awesome, awesome. Jody, it's been such a pleasure to have you on my
Thank
podcast.
you.
This
It's
has
been
been
so
an
much fun.
incredibly, yeah, powerful and practical conversation about building businesses that actually scale and make real impact, which are two very important aspects to a business. And I want to thank you so much for, coming on my podcast, taking out the time out of work, out of helping people to come and talk to me and, come and talk to me and enlighten I and my listeners and just share your love with us. And thank you so so much. Please have a wonderful day and do take care of yourself. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. You as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, awesome. Bye bye.
Bye.